Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Honest as Fuck. So it's me, just Raji. I know I've been going for a while, but I am back. And we are with our lovely co host, Jazzy Sizzle, Waves the Girls, yes, and Jen from the block.
Mhm.
So this week, unfortunately, your boy TJ is not here, but he's here in spirit. So we're going to be here. The girls are in. So,
Yes.
Mhm.
speaking of the girls being in, you ladies are all looking quite lovely today. I must say,
Yeah.
Jasmine, you got your lips popping. Jen with the natural hair. Yes, self care is very important,
Yes, it is.
especially because everything that has been going on. You have to definitely take care of yourself and taking care of your mental being. So I know we've all heard of the big thing that's been going on in the news with Jacob Blake Jr. and Kyle Rittenhouse. So if none of you guys have heard or if none of you guys kind of know what's going on, so Jacob Blake Jr. was shot by the cops several times as he was in his car. So he was physically in his car when he was shot by the cops. Thankfully, he did survive, but it is being said that he's now paralyzed. So on the other side of the map, we have Kyle Rittenhouse, who was actually shooting at the protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin, I believe.
Right.
So, there was just a big uproar about everything that's been going on with Blake Jake Jr. There was a lot of protests going on in Wisconsin, and Kyle Rittenhouse actually murdered two people and seriously injured a third. So, what do you guys feel about what's going on? What are you guys' views on what's been going on so far?
Um, my what really intrigued me is that first of all, he's 17, meaning he's a teenager from Antioch, Illinois, which is what maybe 30 miles away from Kenosha, Wisconsin. So he crossed state lines to stand guard outside businesses during these protests, which stemmed from the police shooting of Jacob Blake. So I'm trying to think, okay, first of all, in Wisconsin, the age you're supposed to be 18 and older to be in possession and use of a rifle. So, first of all, where did he get the rifle? How? I mean, obviously, it's easy accessible, but for a 17-year-old to cross state borders with a rifle and to come out alive out of it, shoot two people, come out of alive. One of those people survived, one didn't, and is now in custody. They took 72 hours to charge him with first degree intentional homicide, which was he was charged initially in Illinois, where a sentence imposed on that crime would give him a life sentence, and also in Wisconsin when he was transferred. So either way, he's looking at a lifetime sentence, which is perfectly fine with me. But why? I'm sure if that was a black man, he would have been shot just like Jacob Blake. So it really just upsets me, and it irritates me, especially after what happened with George Floyd and Eric Garner and all these other black men and black women that have been shot for absolutely no reason. Breonna Taylor shot in her own home sleeping. Like, when is this going to stop? What the heck was um, Jacob Blake doing? He wasn't doing anything. He wasn't even a part of the protest. So my issue is, okay, so now we're just shooting innocent bystanders just because he's leaning over in a car in front of his three kids, which were in the car. It really just boggles my mind. Like, where we've had episodes where we've discussed this over and over and over. When is it going to end, and how much protesting do we have to do for this? And I'm just shocked. I'm glad he's alive. Thankfully, he's paralyzed. That changes his whole life forever. And what really upset me was that they looked into his background and said that he had so many warrants or arrests. Okay, what does that matter? that shouldn't have mattered at all because he didn't commit a crime at that very moment when he was shot. So why are you looking to smear his name? What about the officer? I think he's a 7-year veteran of the Kenosha Police Department. So a 7-year veteran doesn't know how to detain a person, especially if their back is facing them. Apparently, they said that they attempted to use a taser to detain him, and it didn't work. Okay, so you're telling me a 7-year veteran doesn't know how to operate a taser, a gun, or shoot to maim and not kill?
Right. I do definitely agree with what you're saying, Jennifer. And when you think back even to 12-year-old Tamir Rice, he was shot and killed for having a toy gun.
Toy gun. Mm-hmm.
A toy gun. And this man had a full-on assault rifle in the streets. And so it's a hard pill to swallow, but then it shows just how much people value your life or how important you are, that they will shoot and kill you when you're not even a threat. But when you can potentially be a very violent threat, then it's like off with the wind. And I can understand why the protest has escalated kind of into rioting. Do I agree with rioting? I do not. Especially if it's, for no cause. But the people are frustrated. The people are upset. They're angry. And they have a right to be. It's like there's no value to the Black life.
Mm-hmm.
There's no value to the Black man or the Black woman because we're all being murdered equally. So, Jasmine, how do you feel about that? Especially because, you have kids. So for me and Jennifer, it's kind of different because, we don't have kids. So we have to fear for our own life. We have to fear for our family's lives, but it's not like we have kids that we have to fear for. So I'm pretty sure it's a little different for you.
I think we need to ask the question, how did we get here? And how did we get here is the question that we need to answer. And a lot of people don't have answers. How did we get here? But what I do know is that it's hard to be a Black or brown person in America. The way things are being handled by police officers and even civilians, it's not cool. What I'm gonna say there is a lot of white privilege, and I feel like when people use the privilege word, it gets very uncomfortable in the room. I don't know if you've ever thrown that word around. It gets, and if there's another white person in the room, it gets very uncomfortable. But we need to acknowledge that a lot of white people have privilege, and Blacks have been so oppressed since slavery time, and it needs to stop. If this 17-year-old was a Black boy, he would have been shot down. Okay, right then and there. I'm gonna say it loud and clear. If he was a Black or even Latino, he would have been shot. And this is where we need to take a moment and demand justice, right? And the way we can do that is restructuring the police. I'm just gonna say it. We have to hire new people. We have to train differently. The system has been in place and hasn't been adjusted for so long. It's been accommodating to the police officers. And right now we have to train the police officers in certain situations on how to de-escalate the situation, not escalate the situation, no matter what the race is. When you're in that uniform, you're not looking at the person as brown person, or this is a white female with blue eyes, or this is a Black male with cornrows and he's in basketball shorts on the corner. When you put that uniform on, you're protecting and serving. So when you're protecting and serving communities, white communities, Black communities, all equally. And I think that's where police officers in the department lost sight of. What their main focus is meeting a quota, making a statement. You know, I don't know if you ladies ever got stopped by a police officer in the car, and you already, you know, they already have the hand on their belt with the belly out, like, can I get your registration, please? Like, we just need to reprogram the whole system in order for us to succeed and be equal. And I don't think America is ready for that conversation,
Well, I don't.
especially with the president that we have.
Well, outside of zero Donald Duck, um, I think that this is the perfect time for the conversation because there's just been so many instances that have been happening back to back to back that it's, you know, it's very relevant in the media, and it's coming up with our youth. It's coming up with our kids. They're like, you know, me working for an alternative to incarceration program, I hear a lot of how our teens and our young adults are having such negative interactions with the cops. So you're saying that they're here to protect and serve. So on that point, I 100% agree with you, Jasmine. There is a lot of reprogramming that needs to happen. But how do you reprogram a system that was built against us from its very root, from its very core, from its inception? It was built against the demeaning and the locking up and the incarceration of Black people and the separating of Black families. Like, how can you systematically fix that? I don't think you can.
You can't. I think you can't, because right now any policeman, Black, white, Hispanic, brown, whatever, is a bitch behind a badge. You know why? Because even though it's more than likely most of the time a white police officer engaging in these behaviors, you got the brown officer, the Chinese officer, especially in the George Floyd situation, just standing by. So yeah, you are a bitch in a friggin' in a suit. Regardless of if you do nothing, you're still a part of the problem, right? So my issue is that reform. I mean, initially I thought that would have been a solution, but now looking at how far we've come since March up to now and what's going on, I'm here thinking like, okay, maybe it, like you said, Raj, it's a system meant to degrade us, meant to go against us, meant for us to go against each other. So now, how can we reform people, even the new people that might come in? How do you fight racism? How do you fight ignorance? How do you even test that in a psychological manner where, okay, we get rid of all these cops, but now we bring in new ones. How do you train them? Will that change their mentality? Will that change their attitudes, their behaviors? Will that change their racist views? Because regardless of not, there are racist people, police or not police. So it's like, we as Black and brown people and Latino people, we have to continue like in living in fear for our lives every time there's a police encounter. And most of the time these police encounters are so minimal. So it's like, okay, what the hell did I do? And even if there was something that I did, do you really have to take it to that extreme level? Because now there's people being shot in their houses, like I said, or being shot just for calling 911, or being shot jogging. Like, we have to live in constant fear of our lives for as long as, I don't know. I mean, it's been like that from the beginning, and I don't know how it's going to end. And like you said, we don't have kids, but I'm in fear of our future children. Like,
I agree.
I'm scared.
Right.
This is the worst time to raise a child.
Right. But on the other side of things, right, the same way they say not all Black people are thugs, I don't think all cops are bad cops. Like, I can't say every interaction I've had with a police officer was negative. Like, you know, there's some cops out there that are good, and it's sad that they get the backlash of a lot of the negative things that go on, and it's the same for African Americans. You know, there's a lot of Black men and Black women who get a lot of backlash for a lot of the things that, you know, the underprivileged have done. I don't think that Black people are out being thugs in the street just because they are just evil people, but these are people who are trying to attain things that they don't have. They lack resources, they lack employment, they lack finances, they lack education. There's a lot of lack that they are trying to make up for with their thuggish behavior, so to say. You know, that's just in my opinion, from what I've seen. You know, I've grown up in the hood. So I've seen the lack of resources, and I've seen what people have to do to make up for these resources to take care of their families. It's not that they want to be out there robbing, stealing, and just for the hell of it. I personally, I haven't seen that.
I think the system is completely flawed, because you know my kids. I have two kids. We're speaking of kids, right? One is very light skinned, Cameron. He has blonde hair. Daniel, my oldest one, is my complexion or maybe a little darker, and he looks very, very, very Hispanic. And why I say the system is flawed, because I'm gonna have to teach them separately how to handle the police. Okay, because one, Cameron, when he's 25 years old and he's speeding, may get a different response from a police officer versus Daniel when he's speeding. That I understand the resource part, but at the same time, we need to also hold the government and the system accountable.
Speaking of
I agree.
were you guys like aware of like the statements that Vice President Pence made, Democratic president for candidate Biden made, or Trump? Did you, or like even what's her name? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which is the progressive Democratic representative for New York.
Girl.
They made, and even Obama. Like, are you guys?
So let me tell you, so Obama and all of the parties have released statements that were very, very connected with their audience, right? So I feel like anything that anything that tragic happens to America, do you really look for Donald Trump and his speeches? No, we're like waiting for the Obama speech. Like, okay, when is he gonna release a video? When is he gonna release a statement? Even when he does his little tweets on Instagram and Twitter, you look forward to more of those than Donald Trump. Donald Trump released a statement that was very hypocritical today during his nomination. During his nomination today, he stated that under his presidency, that police will have power, they will not be powerless, and there will be structure. But then he said that the nation can't be run by mobs. So I felt like he was saying a positive statement, but he also was hypocritical at the same time. You know, like I felt like that was a very offensive statement about, like, why did he have to say that? Why can't he just, you know, say that the system is accountable for their actions?
Yeah. He is so, this is his political tactic where he's just saying, oh, I'm not going to stand for looting, arson, violence, lawlessness. And he's sending law enforcement and National Guard to Kenosha, Wisconsin to restore law and justice. But he made no mention of Kyle, whatever his name is, Ritter. I don't know.
Rittenhouse.
House. Yeah, who cares what his name is?
Kyle Rittenhouse.
But he made no mention of that, right? So it's like, okay, it's his tactic, like, okay, we're going to restore justice. We're going to try. He's so focused on the looters and the rioters or the protesters, whatever. He's so focused on that he doesn't even mention the cops and their inadequacy on doing their job properly and shooting people. As a president, what kind of person, I mean, obviously, what kind of question is that? What am I asking? He's not even a person. He's not even a human being. He has no emotions, shows no remorse. He's just talks shit out of his ass. But it's like you would expect the president to at least make some general statement. He makes no mention of it.
You know what? I mean, he doesn't say the most intelligent and articulate things. So I'm kind of happy that he has not made an official statement, if that makes any sense. Because who knows the crap that will come out of his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Anything he says.
and that's bad that you expect those things from the person who is supposed to lead your country. That's horrible.
I think his speeches reach a specific demographic, like people who are extreme nationalists. Um, a lot of Westerns, a lot of Western people, like Western states and Southern states. He, like, I don't want to say that they're racist, but his campaign and the way he speaks and his style. If you look at everyone who's wearing a MAGA hat, it's like they fit a specific description, if that makes sense. You'll find some like Donald Trump supporters that are outside the box, like, whoa, you're a supporter, but I feel like he reaches a specific demographic. I also feel he's very selective on what he wants to address to the nation. There's a lot of things that happen. The Breonna Taylors, the George Floyd. I mean, he did address the nation, but it wasn't a thorough and empathetic addressing. I also think that Donald Trump, I feel like he's distracting us from something that's happening. You know, I know this sounds like conspiracy thought, but I feel like he's a distraction, honestly.
He is a distraction. He's trying to distract us that in November we are to vote for the new president. And I hope that all of our viewers are registered voters. And if not, that they get registered and that they, utilize their right to vote. Because that is so important. Because we talk about these instances where it comes to the Jacob Blake Jr.'s and the Kyle Rittenhouses and why they get away with certain things and why certain things happen. And realistically, when it comes to the people who have to try Kyle Rittenhouse, like the ADA and those people, we vote them into office. Or we do not vote them into office by not voting, because these are slots where we do have a say in who goes where.
Right. I completely agree. I mean, speaking of our political figures, yesterday, President, Barack Obama, he commended the NBA and the WNBA for setting an example, and he praised the Milwaukee Bucks for standing up for what they believe in. And like I mentioned, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she tweeted that the NBA players were courageously on strike, and she mentioned strike as opposed to boycott, because that's, it's a powerful move for the NBA to engage in, especially because it's playoff season. They just got back on the court after this whole COVID shutdown. So, they were scheduled to play the Magics yesterday, and they decided not to and protest. The Magic, they refused to accept the forfeit from the Bucks, but 4 other teams followed suit who were, so it's just like, I'm proud of that. A majority of the NBA, believe it or not, even though there are other races, are Black people, are brown people. So it's like that. What better way to, stand up and to make a difference, especially hurting the white man's pockets? Because let's face it, it's a corporation that benefits, that's controlled and benefits by the white man. So what better way to do that than to not play? It's just like the whole Colin Kaepernick taking a knee.
So I'm happy you said that, Jen. Like, cause I totally agree with the walking off or the not playing. So how do you guys feel about Draymond Green, who basically feels like you know we should be playing, like we need to work, like he was kind of against what's been going on, but this is not the first time he's kind of been against things that have been going on as far as like the Black Lives Matter movement. So how do you guys view that? Do you think that all the teams should have? Do you think like it would be a form of disrespect if a team decided to continue to play?
I think it would, because it's a uniform action and all. I mean, but Colin, you want to compare and contrast it to Colin Kaepernick when he was the only player at that moment to take a knee in protest as well. So it's like, okay, he was, criticized. He was he able to play after that? No, most of his endorsements, the NFL kind of tore him, ripped him to shreds in disrespect, when it was his way of peacefully protesting.
Right.
Can I ask you guys a question? What is the right way to protest as a Black person or standing up for Black rights? What is the right way? I feel like every single protest that we have contributed to or society has contributed to has been criticized and ridiculed severely. And we've been protesting since before even Martin Luther King, with peaceful protests, riots, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks. This goes, I feel, bigger than the NBA. I think it goes bigger than Colin Kaepernick, and I'm not downplaying them at all. And I think I think these the NBA players, and I think Colin Kaepernick realizes that they are part of a great movement, but it's bigger than them. So regardless if they play or not, this is bigger than them. You know what I'm saying? So like I would not feel offended if one of the players played. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the teams played or whatever. It's not their responsibility to make change. It's like ours as a whole.
Right.
Right. I feel like one of the best ways for us to really protest is a financial protest. You stop investing your money in these places who don't respect you as a people. Start putting money back into your community. Start putting money back into the Black community. We used to have a Black Wall Street and we used to have major Black banks, which fortunately they're starting to come back around. But these things are important. Like, invest Black. That's the best way to protest. You got to hit somebody where it hurts, in the pocket.
Let me play devil's advocate here, because okay, if we do that, I mean I agree with you, but then look at it realistically. It's unfortunate, but we do have the Black people tearing down these Black communities, especially the looters, the rioters. They're shooting innocent people for what? Over $10 over nothing. So yeah, we have to worry about the police. That's one thing we have to worry about, and it's unfortunate. But it's another thing when you got to worry about your own people who are envious, jealous. It's a whole crab in the barrel mentality. So yeah, if we invest in ourselves, we have to come together as one people. But then you also have these, Black, brown, Latino people who are just jealous, and they don't want to see people in their own race or us as a community rising above them. Like instead of supporting us, they'd rather go and buy some Louis Vuitton, Gucci, all of that, and support the white man, and still do it up to this day. So it's like, yeah, I agree with you in your financial protest, but realistically speaking, there are way too many jealous and envious people, and people who are not as intelligent as we may be, to support support our people, to boycott supporting these white businesses and these companies that really don't care about us, especially like Starbucks. Even none of these higher end corporations really made any comments, like direct comments towards the Black Lives Matter movement, nor did they just make general statements just to avoid any type of political backlash.
And at one point, Starbucks was not allowing employees to wear Black Lives Matter pins. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was for a brief moment. They were not allowing their staff to express themselves with the pins, because Starbucks, you wear your apron, you wear your cute little pins. If a Starbucks employee was caught wearing a Black Lives Matter pin, they could have fired them, or obviously they released a statement and they changed their standpoint on that after it became public. But with that being said, what was their intention in the first place?
From what I've read or from what I've heard about that situation, they were basically saying that what it is that they are a large corporation. So usually things of those matters like pens and anything that they stand for, it has to come from headquarters. So I think it was one of those top-down things where it has to come from the top, like things that are deemed as appropriate, what is not appropriate, how exactly are we going to show our support of what is going on. It may have been a Black Lives Matter pin, but of course they're going to throw a Starbucks logo on there somewhere. But realistically, someone had, I think they had trademarked Black Lives Matter. So technically, if you are showing that, you're kind of promoting other entities outside of Starbucks.
So how is it that gay people of the LGBTQ communities, how is it that they have more rights than us minorities, you want to say? Because technically we're not minorities, because if we all came together in a perfect world, like you said, Taraj, if we all came together and stood together and supported each other, we could knock all these white people out. But you see, they played us against each other, that it's so programmed in our head from the time of slavery, where I don't know if I made mention of this, but even in Guyana, or even in India with the East Indies, when all these Indians migrated, I know I'm getting way deep into it. They migrated over to Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad, all these other Caribbean countries. They were brought as indigenous slave servants, but technically they're low-paid slaves. And even from then, the white people were trying to put them against the black people, which is why there's racism amongst them as well, which makes no sense, because the white people look down on both black and brown people. But I say that because it's an example as to what they do to us, where it's oh, well, don't like this person, don't do this person. They put us against each other, and it's so programmed in us that it's hard for us. There's people out here who think the way we do, but it's just unfortunate the majority don't. But I go back to saying, why is it that Starbucks allows their employees to wear a pride pin and support them, the LGBTQ, well, whatever, communities.
LGBTQ.
Whatever, yeah. Same, it's just a whole different, the act.
You better get them alphabets right, girl, because the kids will come
after
to
you.
They'll be all right.
I think one of the reasons why they would not allow them to wear the pin is because when you speak about that, the Black Lives Movement, it starts a conversation about race, okay? And when you're having a conversation about race, even if you're making someone's coffee or anything like that, it's going to get awkward. It's going to get uncomfortable. And that's the reason why I think Starbucks doesn't want that pin. It's because it's an uncomfortable conversation that a lot of people are not ready for.
So being gay is not an uncomfortable conversation.
I was just going to say.
I think being gay, it's not, I'm not saying that it's an uncomfortable conversation, but they also have their own oppressions. Being a Black transgender person, that's just times two. Whatever Blacks are going through, a Black transgender person is going through it times two. They're getting ridiculed by being Black from society, and they're also being ridiculed by being transgender. It's 10 times more likely for a Black transgender person to get hurt than just a regular Black person or
Right.
attacked. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's just like the 3 transgender women who got attacked in Hollywood not so long ago.
I think if you're for Black Lives Matter, you also have to be for LGBTQ because they have similar oppressions.
Yes, but I don't think I get what you're saying, but the LGBTQ community, I said that right? Okay. They consist of people of all races and all genders and all unknowns. So that's a whole different community in and of itself. Just like women, we could say as women, regardless of our race, we're oppressed to some extent, especially in the corporate workforce. But this is way bigger than that. These are innocent Black people that are getting brown people, that are getting shot and killed for absolutely no reason at all. Just for what? For being Black?
Right. And not only that, not only are we being shot and killed in the street, but the way they portray us in the media after it happens is just another like smack in the face. Like think about it. Jacob Blake Jr., like after everything came out, I think it was the New York Post who was basically saying like, you know, he had like marijuana in his system or something like that. And then when they came to Kyle Rittenhouse, when he was put in a post, it was like, you know, he was hoping to paint signs and graffiti before shooting the protesters. So it's
There's
like
always a justification for the death of a Black man in America.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's always a reason why. There's always a reason why, and that's where we need to change the system. And it starts with us, right? It starts with the individual, the American citizen, to get to know that Black person, right? To get to know that white person. You know how many people don't get to know one another because of race? You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to start embracing each other, and the police department needs, I don't want to say defunded, but their funds need to be restructured.
I agree. And the money needs to go into these communities that they are tearing apart, because they are part of the problem in a lot of these communities.
They are a big part of the problem because
they are a major part. You know, like you say, you don't want to get into like conspiracy theories and all of those things, but I don't care what anybody says. There's no way that all of these drugs are getting into our community just because we find some extra creative way to keep getting them across the border, from across all of these borders all the time. You can't tell me that's the case. I think that they are part of what's flooding our streets with drugs and guns. Definitely guns, because where are people getting military grade guns from? I need somebody to answer that for me. If y'all know, let me know. Not that I want to purchase one, but I need it to make sense.
I agree. I mean, where did Kyle Rittenhouse get his rifle from, first of all, as a 17-year-old? And why is it that he's not being portrayed as like a violent terrorist or something like that? Because he's a Trump supporter, so I figure the media is going to portray him in a positive way.
Well, now they're calling him a thug. So, you know,
okay. I'm okay with that.
I guess that makes a whole lot of difference, because now he's a thug.
You know what's so crazy is that
a white thug.
What's so crazy is that if a white person were to shoot someone, do a mass shooting, they will call him or her a mass shooter. If a Muslim person does it, they call them a terrorist. If a Black person does it, they call them an uneducated thug. we have all of these labels separated by demographic and by race. When justice will be served? When there's no color involved. You know, if you are a white person shooting up a church, a black church, guess what? You are a homebound terrorist. If you are a person shooting people who are peacefully protesting, guess what? You're a terrorist.
Yeah.
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
Call it as you see it, regardless of color.
Of color, yeah.
It should be involved.
And what's crazy with these different labels is different sentencing, you know? So when you're classified as a terrorist, you get terrorist sentencing in the criminal justice system. If you're classified as a criminal, you get sentenced accordingly. If you get sentenced as somebody who has history, like you said, Taraj, everyone has a reason to shoot a black person, right? Because they have marijuana in their back or there's a knife on the floor, but nobody has the real reason to stop, and we need to give them that reason.
Speaking of knife, oh, sorry, go ahead, Taraj.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say, I think ultimately, and in close of a lot of what we were talking about, the solution lies with the black people, the black and brown people. We need to come together. We need to stick together. We need to first work on our communities, definitely, because like they say, like the person heals from the inside out, you heal from the inside out, our communities are gonna heal from the inside out. So we need to start with us. It's going to start with us. It's going to end with us. Definitely continue to keep our foot on these people's necks and hold them accountable for what's going on, and stop letting them get away with these things, because we're still looking to arrest the police who shot and killed Breonna Taylor.
That's completely unacceptable. Unacceptable.
So I'm happy that the cop who did shoot Jacob Blake Jr., he's on administrative leave, whatever that means. I'm happy he no longer has a gun, but realistically, he's still getting paid by the police department. So
why is he on administrative leave?
Because he shot and killed this man.
This is crazy.
Oh, he didn't kill him.
You're right. He shot this man 7 times in cold blood and paralyzed him.
What I'm gonna
children.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
What justification do you have to shoot someone 7 times in the back? In the back, out of all places.
You have no justification.
Right. They're claiming that they saw him bend over in his SUV, right? So technically, like I was gonna say, speaking of knife on the floor, they're claiming that he had a knife on the driver's side on the floor in his vehicle. So, okay, how did they know that? First of all, secondly, I'm thinking because in the background of the reporting, they claimed that the police was saying, "Oh, drop the knife, drop the knife." How do you know the knife was there? I just want to know, because he didn't turn around. So I'm thinking with these conspiracy theories, like how you're saying with the guns, I think they just planted a knife and made it seem like he was a threat. I mean, I want to say I could be wrong, but I strongly believe that's what happened.
I'm just going to close my statement with, you can't be Black in America driving. You can't be Black in America sleeping. You can't be Black in America buying food, going to the gas station. You can't be Black in America, period. But what people can be, you can be a police officer who shoots a Black person and get away with it. And that's what we need to change. And
I agree. You have any closing statements, Jen?
No, I'm over it. I feel like we can preach unity, we can preach reform. It really does start with ourselves, but honestly, I feel like we all need to just be united. Stop killing one another. Really, honestly, not to avoid this stigma like, oh, we'll, black people, black on black violence. No, stop killing our brothers and sisters and start coming together so we can go against these police officers and everything. Because once they see that, I'm telling you, I'm sure once the police see that we're killing each other, obviously they're happy about it, but they joke around about it. But secondly, if they see us coming together and united, oh, I'm sure there's going to be some type of fear instilled in them, because now they're like, oh, wait, they're not divided anymore. They're coming together. So it's really just supporting one another, supporting a black business, supporting your black brother, your sisters, brown people, Latinos, coming together, and stop with this shit, this racism against one another. And let's like battle the white people together, because we outnumber them. That's my closing statement. That's all I got.
And that concludes another episode of Honest as Fuck. So definitely like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and all of those lovely things. If you have any comments or if you have anything that you would like to add to this dialogue, please let us know. And we just may read your comments next week.
Thanks, guys.